Yeah.
Okay, so let's actually record this. So we
Cool.
have this to listen back to.
Thank
And of course, for anyone else, I would say with the same question. So tell me a little, your practices right now, clinical.
you. I have a private practice. It's thriving. But I just really want to do the online coach thing. And I've wanted to for a long time. And I've been in tons and tons of programs. And uh, I just haven't made traction. And I've recently made a decision to go from emotional eating to stress
Mhm.
niche. And yeah, I just want to just decide
Let's
is this
let's even just talk about this.
is
Oh,
this
I
right
love
for
that
me?
I
And
have
who is my
something I
avatar?
just ate on my some. I'm like, wow, well, this is really behind the light. God knows what I ate.
It's Zoom life.
Um,
Zoom life. Yeah.
This is when I think a lot of us get really stuck with niche, and you're a perfect example of this, which is why I asked if I could record it.
Mhm.
Is that you're highly educated, you have a thriving practice, and there is a disconnect between conceptualizing what you do in your clinic or in your practice as a psychologist and shifting. So one of the things that you can think about is there are going to be people, of course, that always, especially right now where, there's different, our lives are different, where they are going to want to see you in the online space. And so you might have a portion of people that you do need to see in the same fashion that you were seeing as a 60-minute session that person is used to. If you're talking about even taking that online, one thought is to really look at like how can you systemize that process to make it so
Mhm.
that your follow-up session notes are not as time consuming as anyone's notes. I don't know if you do insurance, but I
I
know.
do. And I think that's one of the things is I'd like to break free from that so I can create my own programs and prices and my own ways of working with people. There are some limitations as a therapist.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things.
So my suggestion doesn't mean you have to take it, as I'm always one to keep nourishing what is, of course, bringing in the financial income. And
Mhm.
then, of course, positioning yourself. So if you were looking at the stress course, for example, really taking the PowerPoints that are in that stress course, using the quiz in the stress course and saying, you know what, on the front of my website, I'm going to put this quiz. So
Okay.
you can say, and I don't think that you have to go so solo minded just on this one person. I think when it comes to people like you or myself, where stress isn't just stress, affects everyone in a different way. For some
Mhm.
people, it's high performance. For some people, it's restriction with food. For some people, it's emotional eating. For some people, it's overworking, it's addiction, it's sex addiction, it's,
Yeah.
you know, um, gossiping and negativity. But I would say that usually stress, when we want to make a change, is affecting us in a pretty big way. Whether we are a secret keeper and really good at keeping it, quiet from other people, or we've learned how to, um, you know, come up with different narratives because we learned that. Either way, would I look at a person who's saying, well, maybe I don't know my ideal client avatar? I think you do. I think for you to be able to move into this space and think of having this pretty much in a word that many people are starting to know, which is here's your concierge therapy. This
Mm.
is really, and what's great about that word
Mhm.
is people know that word. We've
Mhm.
also really, I mean, we've always known VIP doctor, VIP, but now in this last year or two, I'm seeing a ton of different practices that are saying, hey, you're going to get this level of concierge service, this is
Yeah.
what it's going to look like. So you could position this 3-month program
Mhm.
as, it depends whatever you want to charge, but let's just say hypothetically, you were saying $597 a month, which is
Mhm.
then 1791. Or if you said, no, definitely, if I gave, we'll just look at price first. I always feel like we have to know price. So if you said, you know what, for $697 a month
Okay.
times 3, that's 2,091. You can also position it like a lot of concierge do, where you say, you know what, you're going to join this program. We're having a one-on-one consult first to really dive into the areas that I want you to look at specifically in this stress journey. Because as I mentioned, and just reiterate it for, we all have stress, but each one of us may be a different reason that we buy. There may be a different wake up problem. And
Okay.
that's why I always say to coaches or therapists like yourself, just because you don't think that, their emotional eating is as bad, this might be drowning your ideal client. And so a perfect example is I worked with a lot of people with massive autoimmune, but somebody would say, I have a team of people. What's
Mhm.
killing me is the belly bloat. I don't want to go out. I don't. So I think that often looking at the vastness of the problems is important. And I think that those teaching pillars within that, things that you want to hone in on, I think that's where we get confused with niche. So I would definitely look at it and say, is there emotional eating, binge eating component, self-worth, body image? That's one big pillar.
Mhm.
That restriction, dieting, perfection mindset.
Yes.
And then the other one that may be, in your opinion, more of the mindset part on how anxiety, stress, it affects your adrenals. But breaking it down, looking at what's going to set you apart as that, amazing therapist that is coming and bringing this opportunity. So if you said that it was, let's just say, $597 a month, and you had 10 women, and you had 10 women for that time, that's 17,910. If you wanted to charge somebody and say, well, to come into this 3-month ongoing membership, and then we do it, or do it again, or maybe the next is a different hero journey, or you wanted to even extend it because there's so much information.
Yeah.
You could actually say, do you guys want to continue? So an option is that you continue, or an option is that you say, we're going to be with each other for 6 months, and it's $597. You're going to get access to 2 calls. Each one of you are going to have, one, whether it's a 60-minute or a 45-minute with me, twice a month.
Yep.
Group is for support. That's then 3,582 times 10 women. That's 35,820. So that's how I would look at it. Is I would, if you wanted, you could do the stress guide for the first month and the workbook for the second. I mean, extending that.
Okay.
But if you envision this as a 3-month, because if you were going to have people start in June, again, to kind of depending where your ideal client is in their urgency to kind of go more deep dive. I think it could be done that way. I think that it could also, of course, be done as a signature program for 1997. And if at 5 people, that's 9,985. I think it's more just really looking at how can you do this with also being in your clinic practicum like every day and not feel drowned? And I would say for most therapists that I've talked to or social workers, there's usually a platform that you have already existing for client follow-up information.
Yeah.
You could realistically use the same exact platform,
Okay.
because if it really already works for you, there's no reason to necessarily deviate.
Okay. Okay.
But I would, to recap on the list building, I would start reaching out to podcasts and talking about, this PTSD and this mental health that we've been aware of for so long, and how stress impacts us at our
Yeah.
home, in our work. To reiterate, I think knowing what our ideal client is like I know right now, I'm your ideal client, like even just from talking with you. I guarantee you might have a woman who is a high powered CEO, and then you have a mom at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just making sure they have the same problems. I think that, and understanding that any human being, the moment you say like, how is stress really impacting you? Do you feel that you have so much adrenaline and cortisol that you don't eat? Do you feel like you end up binge eating? Is this affecting your sex drive, your libido, your
Yeah.
hair, your autoimmune, your skin, and really helping that person to see that you are that one-stop shop in a more intimate way. Because I think the downside, and I've been to a lot of great therapists, is that you'll see somebody for 60 minutes
Yes.
and then but to really like heal, it is to be in that more intensive support and trust building.
Mm.
So I think if you can see it like that, it starts to look at it as, oh, wow, that's a no-brainer, and play around with the financial numbers.
Yeah.
Start building the visibility, looking at the quiz, and even looking at the PowerPoints to use for visibility. And if, of course, you needed to add anything, but that's a pretty tight package, to have maybe, if you wanted to do a signature masterclass that was really specific to, for example, your ideal client, if hormones are whacked and she doesn't even know what adrenals are, or if it's like mood that you focus on, whatever you feel like, whew, I have to scream this from the mountaintops to the entire world because this is missing. That's where the content comes in. The content really saves time so that you can scream that message consistently with doing even a series of videos or a master class that you upload to YouTube. Start really branding yourself as, that therapist that gets to really change the game for women who are obsessively dealing with stress, or even couples. I mean, I can't tell you how many couples I worked with. I just think there's a lot of possibilities on who we work with.
Yeah.
You might even work with maybe families or moms that have girls, in the thick of their eating issue. But if it's not that if you're done with kind of the eating issue stuff.
Well, I don't mind bringing it in as like a pillar, as you use that term. But I didn't want to be my front.
Right. Yep.
So I'd like stress, so yeah, but definitely.
I mean, when I look at expanding to the group coaching, is that, I'll just give you this can be your signature 3 months. You can also have even a group that is for stress eating. We're like, guys, let's end this emotional eating, or, let's find ourselves again with these kind of distinct, step-by-step practices. But I really think that conceptualizing how to use it is more thinking, what do I need to do now on the visibility?
Okay.
Look at the workshops within that program. The freebies are amazing, and say, I'm not going to get myself overwhelmed. I'm going to go baby step. Baby step on who already knows and believes in me, reaching
Okay.
out to
Yep.
even your existing network
Yep.
of people. I know it feels scary to ask, but I guarantee there are people that don't do what you do that could become a great referral network back and forth and vice versa.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I didn't think about it as like just stay in your practice and shift that. I felt like I had to do this separate thing and it's been really complicated, but I like how you described it. And yeah, I mean, I've got some people right there that I can talk to.
Well, and a great person to listen to her podcast is Rebecca Capps.
Okay.
She is a therapist and she expressed the same thing. She said, I love doing my sessions that I do. People need that one-on-one, but I also wanted to be able to reach more people. And so, the pricing's relative. You can go for like, I want 30 people. It doesn't mean you can't get 30 people at a higher price. But if
Hmm.
you said, you know what, I'm releasing this because, wow, this has been a crazy year and it will never be this price. You can also say, the whole package is $997 and shoot for 30 people joining, 29,000.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just
Yep.
just look at the flexibility. I think if you try to recreate the wheel, I don't think there's a point. But if you go to my podcast at rachelefeldman.com, Rebecca Capps, and she talked about transitioning her, she's a emotional eating therapist,
Yeah.
transitioning it more to a group. Do you have any additional questions from that, what we discussed?
No, I'm just like, what kind of coaching do you offer?
Somebody is actually asking me because I've spent a lot of time creating content, and a few people have said, "Can you please send me what it would cost to work with you?" So I'm relooking at some of those
Okay.
packages.
Cool. 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 All right.
I'm glad that helped. I really,
Yes,
and
a lot.
just
You gave
remember,
me,
the
yeah.
niche is for us to help us get clear, but then the intuition steps in and we say, I'm not going to let like the overwhelm of how to create this, like do what you already done. This was the best advice my first coach, because I said, I don't know how to create a wellness business. And she said, what did you do in commercial real estate? Because you built a business. And I was like, oh, well, that was easy. And she
Right.
said, okay, so think of it as like condo conversions. Think of it as the commercial building you sold. And
Mhm.
once I started seeing, oh, wait, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Totally different, businesses, but really looking at your zone of genius and seeing how that is best showcased in the online space. And it really doesn't have to be any different. And I'll just end with this is a lot of people, not of course our clients, but in the business space, in the business world, somebody will say, yeah, I charge a container price. I have a doctor in my membership doing this. So she's charging a price per month.
Mhm.
I think she's at $497 a month, but she does an initial, I think it's $497 to have that initial time where they're mapping out a personal plan, and then they move into her monthly container, which includes a certain amount of sessions with her,
Yeah.
access to, of course, the group materials,
Oh, cool.
videos. So I think there's a lot of different models that are blooming in this, last time where in this time of age, which we were already moving towards, that are showing this more in-depth experience with each other.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time,
My
Rachel.
pleasure. I'm going to send you this. I really appreciate you letting me record
Sure.
this because it's just such a great example of how we sometimes overthink like the things that are in
Yes.
front of us. So I'm
Yes.
glad I could help.
Amazing. It's like such valuable feedback, and coming from you, it really helps me a lot. I really trust your opinion on this. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you. I will send you a follow-up email and I'll give you a
Cool.
direct link to look at Rebecca. And I'll think of a few other therapists who have done this model
Cool.
because I had a therapist who contacted me and she's like, I'm taking everything online. I'm doing online memberships in different
Yeah.
niches. So tons of different ways. tons of different
Awesome.
ways to be of service. All right. It was great to meet
Right.
you. I'm going to send
Yes,
you
thank
this
you.
and some just additional feedback.
All right, cool. Thanks so much, Rachel. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Bye.
Bye.